Grace Covenant Church finds its home in Cornelius, North Carolina, a city with a rich 80-year history of advancement and growth. In the year 1938, long before Lake Norman came to town, the holy waters of baptism were poured out under a tent in a revival led by the late Dr. and Mrs. Clanton. What was meant to last 2 weeks lasted 5 weeks, and soon a building took shape as the calloused hands of church members provided the labor. Money was tight, but God used what the people gave and He multiplied it. The church was expanded, and even the next generation, children of the new converts under the tent, began singing songs about Jesus instead in a concrete basement. And it was on that easel of brick veneer and musty carpet that God planted a church that you and I now call home. In the year 1998, people doubled down on their decision not to limit God, and a brand new sanctuary and a balcony and even multiple expansions would ensue. New campuses were launched in East Lincoln and in Mooresville. And now, Grace Covenant Church is embarking on one of our most significant moments yet. Because while COVID certainly changed things like inflation and higher interest rates and unrelenting construction prices and perhaps even what your family argues about at Thanksgiving dinner, COVID did not change the status of lost people around Lake Norman. So we are inviting everyone who calls Grace home into a 2-year season that we are praying will be like no other. Our predecessors demonstrated bold faith in hoisting sail toward the unknown, and we must continue to have faith beyond the buoys. We must make gritty and innovative decisions to raise our children and grandchildren in the love of Jesus and in the safety of the local church. Yes, our times are uncertain, but one thing I've never been sure of is that the world needs Jesus. Welcome to Uncharted. The primary goal of Uncharted is generosity discipleship. Here's what that means. It means 100% engagement. It means that all of us at Grace Covenant, from the Burris family to church council and elders and staff, to regular attenders, to first-time guests, will be challenged to take our generosity discipleship to the next level. To put Christ first in our generosity means that instead of living in a way that impacts our giving, we rather give in a way that impacts our living. Beyond merely writing our first check or simply signing up for an auto draft, we give Jesus priority and preeminence in the seat, the sum, the center of our hearts. He becomes first in a way that affects everything. So whether you've been journeying with God for years in giving, or whether this is your first time participating, God has prompted us to lead you beyond the buoys. We are not individuals. We are part of a team, so we're aiming for 100% engagement. The secondary goal of Uncharted is mission advancement. We want to advance the mission of Jesus, and here's what we believe that's going to look like over the next 2 years at Grace. First, uncharted generosity in our church. We see this next 2-year season as a discipleship growth opportunity as we teach about the purpose of the tithe in spiritual formation. We will not back down in the next 2 years on investing into children and students, infants to college. Pastor Farrell used to say, our children and students deserve our first and our best. So we will continue to fund what God is already doing at Grace. And we invite you to partner with us in doing so.
One of the things that I think about when thinking about investing in Grace is looking at the fruits of the church, having been here at Grace for 5 years and seeing the impact that Grace has had on the community and the world.
And as we've prayed through it, God has challenged us in that, making a commitment for 2 years to give sacrificially and to watch God work, watch Him work in the community at large, but also in our family and in our own finances.
Second, we're to have uncharted generosity in our world. It's our desire to increase our outreach to our world by increasing our investment in our local and global partner ministries. This includes building an interim housing facility for sex trafficking victims in one of the most heavily trafficked countries in the world, in Indonesia. This includes helping to fund a vocational training center for non-English speaking electricians at the neighborhood care center. And this includes helping to ensure that Dr. Mary Bennett's work continues with orphans in Line Fork, Kentucky at the Sunshine Children's Center.
We look at it from a lens of being the recipient of that generosity. And we grew up in Kenya, we grew up in humble beginnings and moved to the US, and God was so gracious that He made a way for us to move here.
This Uncharted is a great family opportunity in such a way that we have to teach our kids what we would like to see. We want to give them a chance to look outside of themselves and see, how can I be helpful to somebody else that is not me?
And third, we need to have uncharted generosity in our communities. Think campuses. As a multi-site church, Grace has the unique opportunity and responsibility to impact multiple communities around Lake Norman. We need to believe in and invest in our campuses. Our East Lincoln campus needs a permanent church home. The land is paid for. The plans are drawn. The dirt is soon to be moved. We need to get out of our interim facility and into a building that facilitates growth. Our Mooresville campus is already approaching capacity in its small sanctuary. Near overnight, God revitalized a church of 17 into a church of 170. And in the next few years, we're going to need to expand the Mooresville sanctuary and add offices. And in Cornelius, we need creative outdoor spaces that we can use near year-round. People move to North Carolina because they want to be outside. And in short, we need shade. We need shade for adults by expanding our gathering place to the south in the form of a shaded terrace. And we also need shady places for children to play and for students to hang out. Kevin Costner taught us in the movie Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. And do you know what? They'll meet Jesus there, because refreshing and relevant spaces offer more than aesthetic value. They have spiritual value, because people are loved in those spaces and people meet Jesus in those spaces.
When I think about the Uncharted initiative, I really get excited. I think this initiative covers a lot of ground. It covers the kids. It covers kids in Line Fork. It covers the care center with Manny. It covers improving the church so that people that are looking for a comfortable place and looking for somewhere to bring maybe their friends and family.
I know that we're in the right place, and we're and that Grace Covenant is absolutely headed in the direction we want and helping guide us as a family to where we want to be.
Uncharted generosity in our church, uncharted generosity in our world, and uncharted generosity in our community. Will you join me, Grace Covenant, in finding lostness unacceptable like our predecessors? Would you join me in praying for our own revival? Let's be like those who've gone before us and prepared a way for us to meet Jesus by ourselves preparing a way for the next generation to meet Jesus. God has already done an old thing, and now let's trust Him to do a new thing as we together enter into uncharted waters of generosity.